So hey anime fans. The series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Terumi. So let's start the series. A war had been going on down in the Valley of the End for a long time. Two rivals and best friends engaged in combat. If the lava and enormous gouges in the valley's sides were any clue, they were extremely powerful despite their youth. The two lads made the decision to clash with their final attacks in order to put an end to it. A purple sphere of demonic core energy had formed around the two of them as a result. Why? Both of them were, in fact, employing dark powers. At level 2, Uzumaki used the power of the dreadful Nine Beast no Kitsune, while his companion Uchiha used the power of the Cursed Seal. Suddenly, the sphere burst, launching the betrayer Uchiha into Madara Uchiha's leg. Time appeared to slow down and then stop as Naruto was sent out, and he himself had stopped and was hovering just above the ocean. For everyone and everything, time had literally stopped. The mindscape of Naruto. When Naruto awoke, he saw his prisoner's cage. Even the dripping water had halted in midair in his head, and he was genuinely curious about what was happening. What is going on? Time has stopped, young one. I did this for one reason only. To tell you the truth of everything that has happened and what is to come. Also to give you choices of how things will go. For you see, things are not as they seem. I wish to help you, young kid, for I have seen the timeline. He would have continued, but Naruto interrupted him. This time, Naruto was interrupted in the middle of a statement. What the hell are you talking about? Nothing you are saying is making. This was due to the fact that Nine Beast's form had begun to shift. Unbeknownst to him, the fox started to shrink into an elder version of himself. Naruto gave a stupid nod in response to the statement. Now that I have your attention, please let me continue. Now, we Bijou are not what we seem and your future is alterable. We Bijou are part of one entity called the Jubi, or as very few know, Kalina, the Queen of Time. She was the girlfriend of the Six-Paths Sage, not the entity he contained within himself like the stories go. He also had an apprentice that, in the end, betrayed him and killed Kalina. The Six-Paths Sage did the only thing he could do with the power that was unleashed when she died. He split it up and sealed it into the timeline itself, which Kalina had shown him how to access. If he had not done that, there would have been one of left alive, as everyone would have been turned into possessed sand zombies. Now, Kalina was not originally from our world, she came from another world where there were brutal wars, and it seemed that she could not escape that. Luckily no one here knew it until she told him and his apprentice, which led to the betrayal that she foresaw in the timeline and prepared for. At the Nine Beasts paused and saw that he still had Naruto's full attention, so he continued. So when the power that she left behind was sealed into the timeline, it stayed there for a long time and soon the power became sentient, thus the creation of the Bijou had started. Eventually we found ourselves in the reincarnation cycle and we gained the forms of future people. That is the main reason I have your form, for I chose the form of a future hero in time. The others were the same and we have turned into the forms of their eventual downfall, the forms of the demon containers. Not only did we gain those forms but forms of animals that fit our nature. Once that was done, we escaped the timeline, but we were all weak with only one tail. So, we trained in secret, and as we grew in power, we also grew in height, which led to our secret existence being shattered. People feared our power and eventually devised ways of gaining our power. Though we saw our own demises in the timeline, we were not happy about it. Now I have brought you before me to tell you that you are the person that will bring the power of time back together again, but Kalina will not be revived. Her power will be yours and your destiny is your own, but if you do not defeat the dark entity that we felt in the timeline, then everything will be thrown into absolute chaos, and reality will cease to exist and time will cave in on itself to end the worlds that are connected by time. No pressure then, huh? Was all Naruto could do at this point. I guess you could put it that way. Now you have 3 choices. These are all variations of what will and could happen. The first option is where Naruto's friend Uchiha escapes and you return to Hide Ninja Village where you train for 3 years under Jiraiya of the Sannin. The dangerous clan will gather most of the demon containers and kill many people. You defeat them, and Hide Ninja Village is mostly destroyed in the process, which is then led by Danzo as he slowly changes everything that the Sandame had created for the worst. He has you kill, and he unleashes the dark entity. At this, Naruto gulped as all that seemed pretty bad. The 9 Beast went on. The second option is where you bring Naruto's friend back, but the council banishes you, where many things could happen. You die at the hands of Root, which is led by Danzo. You create your own village that is full with missing Nins and other powerful people, or you become an outcast to the world where you become very strong, but in the end, you are not strong enough to defeat the dark entity because the dangerous clan has captured you and taken me away in resurrecting Aiki. Naruto gulped again. This was something he truly wanted to avoid and not be a fated hero. However, this choice appeared to be no better than the previous one, if not worse. 9 Beasts provided Naruto the last option that was anticipated after a short delay to allow the facts to sink in. The final option is that you disappear from the battle site and make the people from Hide Ninja Village think that you are dead. This is the tricky part because this option is bathed in the mist that covers the unknown in the timeline. All that I know is that you gather all of the Bija's energy before the dangerous clan does. You return to Hide Ninja Village and with the help of friends, old and new friends that you make along the way on your journey, you defeat the dangerous clan and the dark entity that someone bathed in the mist but I know is a Uchiha will resurrect. The third option is bathed in mystery and there is no telling where you will go, or even when. Now choose. Naruto was taken aback. He never imagined that he would experience anything like this. However, he would still have to consider these 3 possibilities. The initial choice was terrible. He would undergo all of that training in order to overcome the evil clan, only to be killed by a jerk named Danzo. That option was promptly tossed out the window. The second choice is marginally superior. He could aid all of the world's outcasts, but he would either be killed by the dangerous clan or witness their partial destruction and the dark entity, which he would not be able to combat. Since that alternative was also rejected, the only one left was the third, mysterious choice, one that he might be able to win. Even a young child could see the choice. 9 Beasts nodded in agreement, sensing that his conscious self would soon come to an end as a result of his choice. I choose option 3. Let's get this party started. Actuality. Time then began anew, and Naruto's body briefly glowed before launching itself into the rushing stream that carried him to Wave Country. Just in time to witness this, the 6th headmaster arrived and collapsed in his own teaching failure. He glanced up at the sky and muttered, "I'm sorry. I failed. Old friends." He then wrenched the Uchiha out of the stone leg and headed home, to the impending depression. Using Naruto. After 2 days, Naruto was standing in front of the memorial that his group had created for Zabuza and Haku. After a few minutes of staring at it, 9 Beasts signaled that it was time to grab the sword. Naruto gave in and accepted the blade. However, after it was out, it started to glow with an odd energy akin to lightning, which 9 Beasts had yelled was the timeline's power. Everyone in Wave Country, including young Ainari, who was nearby, was drawn in by the intensely bright flash that followed. That wasn't the issue, though. The issue was that Naruto was in excruciating pain as the 9 Beasts' force was torn from him and directed into the sword, which was glowing with power. At the same time, with the legendary Sannin. Since they didn't think Naruto was dead, he was discussing with 5th Headmaster how to go about locating Naruto. There was a strange pulse on his body, and a scroll with the label, "In" on it shot out of his clothing. The 5th Headmaster was genuinely perplexed by what was going on, and his eyes widened. Then, as the other half of 9 Beasts' power emerged to form a sphere of demonic power, the scroll unrolled. It then flashed out of existence, and into the blade where Naruto was. The ancient toad hermit sobbed and dropped to his knees after that. 5th Headmaster was devastated by the words, "I truly failed you, Minato. Your son really is dead." She too sobbed, believing that the necklace had taken another soul and most likely its own. Using Nerdu. Nerdu gasped as he looked at the blade, only to realize that it had altered when the light went out, and he was no longer in pain. It was bigger, with a figure-8 symbol in the center that glowed the same blue, and what appeared to be blue energy moving along its outside. It also included several other strange patterns. But as he gazed at them, the 9 beasts' last words sprang to memory. Return to discover the answers directly from the 6 paths sage. He was completely perplexed, but he didn't have much time to figure it out since he heard a voice. Nerdu? When Nerdu saw it was Inari, he grinned and exclaimed, "Hey Inari!" before fainting. After his mission to Wave, Nerdu woke up in a bed in a residence he knew well. He abruptly sprang up and said, "That's right, that stuff did happen. And here I thought it was a dream and I was still on the Wave mission. Don't forget to say hello properly this time." After that, Nerdu carefully got out of bed and descended the stairs to find the delighted family discussing Nerdu's arrival. "You know, I could answer those questions for you," he remarked, shocking them. "Nerdu and I-san," said Inari, who hurried to embrace his hero. "Hey, long time no see, Inari." Tsunami, Inari's mother, said, "Nerdu, could you please tell us what happened and why you are not in Hyde Ninja Village?" As he told them the truth about what had transpired and what the 9 beasts had informed him, Nerdu responded, "Of course." It would be an understatement to say they were taken aback. They simply gazed at him as if he had become deranged. At last, Tazuna spoke. "Okay, I will believe you for now, mostly because I don't understand much about the ninja world. So tell me, do you really want Hyde Ninja Village to think that you are dead for now?" Nerdu stated, "I think it would be for the best. I will eventually go back, but I need to train and find a way to go into the past to save the world somehow." "Please take me with you," Inari begged. "I want to train with you." "You sure you want to be a ninja and travel with me?" "Yes. I want to be able to protect my family when the time comes." "All right, but you have to ask your mom." Inari turned to face his mother and grandfather at this point, and gave them the puppy dog eyes. With a sigh, Tsunami gave up. "All right, but you have to train here for 6 months to a year so you both have what it takes to protect yourself, got it?" she said. Inari exclaimed, "All right, Mom!" since he had assumed that this would be simple and enjoyable. He was so mistaken. Inari was literally trained to death by Nerdu within the first month. He forced the poor youngster to run several times a day around the whole village. Nerdu himself typically ran and practiced with his young student, so the child wasn't alone in this. The scrolls that Nerdu had forgotten about when he grabbed it from the forbidden scroll that one day were the one thing that helped him train Inari. He recalls that day because it was the second day he had moved in with their family. A trip back in time. When Tsunami informed Nerdu that he would be staying with them, he was seated on the couch. They also mentioned that he would soon receive new garments, so he began searching through it to retrieve what he had, and the scrolls were what he discovered. Before Inari saw and inquired as to what they were, he gazed at them. He informed him that although he had never read them, they were scrolls addressed to him. Tsunami then advised him to open them at that moment. He then started reading after opening the red one. "Greetings, Nerdu." "Hello, son. I'm your mother. I'm Kushina Uzumaki, and I was born and raised in Whirlpool Country, which IWA destroyed. To start over, I moved to Hyde Ninja Village. I was dubbed the Red Death. Now I would reveal your father's identity to you, but you probably already know it. If not, I won't give it away. No matter how proud you are, know that I will always be of you. That's all I have to say. Good luck, my son. Oh, I have a better name for you to use. When you find out, Taimu Kahaku. I would give you something to help you along the path, but you already have it or you will get it from your grandfather. With affection. Kushina Uzumaki, your mother. P.S. If I'm dead, it's because I was murdered by a jerk named Danzo. It would be an understatement to say that Naruto was perplexed. Had his mother lost her mind? He understood her joke, but he was aware of the power she was referring to. How could he be a time traveler? Naruto started reading the yellow scroll, but Inari and the others were as perplexed. Greetings, Naruto. I'm not sure what to say, but I'm your father, the same man who imprisoned the 9 beasts within you. I am the 4th Hokage, yes. I understand that you undoubtedly detest it, but if I couldn't do it myself, I couldn't do it to anyone else's child. I must now express my gratitude for the artwork of the Flying Thunder God's spirit. You gave me the idea, but I could be speaking too soon, so I'll stop there. A few things I would like you to study, some seal-related publications, and a training schedule are all included in the seal below. Good luck. Your dad. Minato Namikaze, also known as the 4th Hokage and the Yellow Flash. This time, Naruto believed his parents were both crazy. However, he simply dismissed it and opened the gift his father had given him. The end of the flashback. Yes, during the next 4 months, he and Inari had benefited much from the workout routine. He had acquired the ability to view the timeline during the 4 months. All well and good, but he had little vision for the future, so he turned to the past to see if it may aid him and Inari in their preparation. He discovered how to bend the elements, which made him quite happy. Since it was difficult for him to explain what he saw to Inari, the sword made from the power of the 9 beasts was fashioned into an amulet for the child to let him learn on his own. Yes, Naruto had taught Inari the standard ninja techniques, but that only elevated the child to the level of a genin. In any case, Inari had to develop his own ninja style, thus he learned the water bender technique on his own. Tsunami had been a little irritated by that, and when they were questioned why, they didn't get the response they were hoping for. The fact that Inari's biological father was a water manipulator to the extent that his lineage allowed him to transform into water revealed that he had been a former ninja who had lost the capacity to use core energy. After that, the child really immersed himself into waterbending, and in the 4th month of their training, he also unlocked his bloodline. Inari was both startled and delighted. He had reached the mid-chunin level. However, Naruto mixed 2 bending styles he observed. They were bending lightning and air. He is still attempting to integrate the things he had to learn separately. Naruto also gained some additional knowledge. The Flying Thunder God truly caught him off guard, yet his father's spirit arts were easy. This spirit art seems to be time-based. Although his father had mastered the art of time manipulation, which allowed him to outperform other ninja, the spirit art was lacking because he needed to employ the Trikanai in order to complete it. Fortunately, the blade gave Naruto complete control over the time factor. Inari had dubbed him the Azure Flash since he could employ the Justa to its maximum effect and was surrounded by the timeline's blue lights instead of a yellow flash. Naruto went on to produce some of his own time spirit artwork, including the one about which he had been perplexed from the start. The Justa of time travel. He has been able to accomplish the impossible, which is normally impossible. One example of such is Wave Country. Speaking of that location, he felt at home there, and everyone respected him. They even cautioned him from visiting any ninja from the Hyde Ninja Village. Yes, this area was fantastic, but he had just 1 month left until they could depart and see the globe. Inari and Naruto are currently at the location where Inari's stepfather was murdered. You really think this will work, Naruto? Inari inquired, his expression doubtful. Naruto hefted the blade on his shoulder and remarked, Anything is possible, Inari. Besides, if this works, we could save him right before his dies. Oh, that is another thing. You really need to name that blade before we go. Fine. How about the time blade? Good enough. Now let's do this before I change my mind. Inari replied, sounding a little uneasy. There was a huge electrical surge throughout the city as the two were transported back to a few minutes before Inari's stepdad was taken from them. All right, with this move, we will change time itself. Oh, and I don't think it is a good for you to see your younger self in the eyes, because I'm not sure what will happen, Ned said, and his friend nodded. He then charged his churka into the blade and yelled, "Time travel spirit art!" The blade. They soared over a vast area that was raging with lightning, with a storm of lightning above and a roaring ocean below. They vanished after being struck by a lightning bolt. They materialized in a nearby alley. They dashed to the roofs and hurried to the fence-enclosed location. They could see if it had occurred earlier. Inari questioned, "Why could we have earlier?" "I don't know. I was planning on going back a bit further, but something was keeping from doing that." With a hint of impatience, Inari replied, "All right, let's get closer and then get him." Nuda intervened and replied, "We get closer, but we wait until he is right about to die and then we strike. You take out the surrounding samurai, I free him and deliver a message to Gato, and then we get back." After saying, "Fine," they waited for Gato to finish speaking. "Let this be a lesson to all who oppose me. He will be an example to those who do." "Kill him," said Gato. The samurai then grinned and was ready to murder the man. Just as they were about to, a voice called out. Nuda shouted, "Not on my watch, too, jackass!" as Inari leaped over the fence. Everyone was completely taken aback by the fact that two children had suddenly jumped, and they were even more surprised by their attire. Nuda wore a black trench coat with torn sleeves, a black muscle shirt, baggy black slacks with lots of pockets, black steel-toed combat boots, sunglasses, and a black bandana that covered his entire head. He appeared really menacing with all of that, and his enormous blazing blade on top. Inari wore a blue shirt, a back jacket that exposed his shirt, black shoes, black slacks with silver T-stripes, and a tan cloak that concealed his face. As Nuda hacked down Inari's stepdad and turned to face Gato, that caused all of the samurai to hesitate for a second, which was all Inari needed to pull the water out of the air and knock all the samurai away. The short man shuddered slightly. "Sleep in fear, you creep, 'cause in time, you will be killed by the demon of the mist. That, or other ninja will kill your bitch ass." "Who the hell are you?" Taimu Kahaku. With a sly smile, Nuda turned to face the elder Inari and gave him a nod. Prior to the three of them flashing out of existence, the boy who understood and sprang next to him stared directly at younger Inari and cried out the justu. In yet another electrical shock, they materialized directly in Tsunami's living room. With Inari's stepfather still in his arms, Nuda grinned and said, "Mission accomplished, ugh, that spirit art taken way too much core energy." He then collapsed and passed out. The man was stunned by what had transpired. Tazuna and Tsunami were staring at them in disbelief as some memories flashed through their minds, and Tsunami yelled, "What the hell?" Kaiza gazed at the blond boy, whom Inari had referred to as Nerdu, as he leaned back drowsily on the couch beside him. Inari sat between them, quickly curled up to Kaiza's side, dozing. The poor child had talked endlessly. As Tazuna was tending to his injuries, he enthusiastically described all that had occurred after his death, although he was finding it difficult to accept that fact. Interestingly, the elderly bridge builder had done a pretty good job of bandaging him. Even if it required many long hours and a great deal of yelling on Kaiza's half, and even more astonishingly, Nerdo had slept through the entire procedure. Now, approximately 30 minutes later, they were sitting on the couch with Kaiza gazing. Inari fainted. Nerdo stared blearily up at the ceiling. In between them, Even though Kaiser was happy to be alive, it was a little unsettling to be abruptly tossed from one moment to the next. It makes sense that he was experiencing a little difficult to adapt. If that wasn't difficult enough, it was all due to his self-proclaimed son, whom he almost reverently called his elder brother. To believe that a single youngster had the incredible capacity to. He has the ability to travel through time. I know I'm awesome and all, Naruto complained, jolting him out of his reverie. But could you stop staring? You're sort of freaking me out. After blinking at him, Kaiser gave him an embarrassed smile. Sorry. The blonde mumbled a drowsy, no problem, while nodding. He gave a loud yawn, displaying his slightly sharper than normal teeth. For a few more moments, Kaiser remained silent, his gaze unintentionally straying, returning to the teenager who was sleeping lightly. Finally, he murmured, So, if only to break the. What's it like to time travel? I asked in quiet. Naruto gave him a half-lidded look before smiling. It's sort of tingles. Tsunami entered and gave Kaiser a tender kiss, to which Inari responded with a choking noise. Yes, and it nearly drained you, she said. His mother simply gave him a fun head bob. However, Naruto was acting like a slacker right now, but he couldn't stay that way for long. His core energy had returned to normal, and he straightened up, saying, Inari. Yeah? Stay here for a bit, get to know you stepdad again. I am going back to see an old sage, he murmured. What? You're going to see that old man without me? Inari, the time I am going back to is more dangerous than our time. Oh, wait, I think know what you are talking about. The time of bloodshed and all that, Kaiser replied faintly. You sure you can handle? I don't know, but if I can't, I don't want Inari to be lost in the past. I see. Well, while you're going, I am going to be training. I will not be weak when you get back, exclaimed Inari as he hurried out the door to begin his training. Old man Tazuna groaned. I think he is taking after you, Naruto. Dad, that is a good thing. He just wants to protect the people he loves, just like Naruto. Tsunami replied. Naruto replied. Yeah, now I have to go. Tsunami nodded while embracing her irate son. Then, she called forth his spirit art, and he vanished with a powerful electrical surge. Kaiser simply groaned and glanced at the location where he saw Naruto go. Tazuna and Tsunami nodded in agreement as he deadpanned. I don't think I will ever get used to that. All of the elemental countries were impacted by the electrical surge, even if they were unaware of it. That simply gave folks the impression that a significant event was on the horizon. They had no idea how correct they were. Alongside Naruto saw that the storm was growing stronger the farther back in time he traveled as he soared across what he termed the Sea of Time. To avoid being thrown off course and sent to a different era, he even had to use his big blade to cut a couple waves in half. He waited for lightning to hit him as he got closer to his destination so he could access the time he desired. He saw a thing that made him shiver just as it was going to strike him. It was a humanoid creature with enormous horns twisted into the sign of infinity, and it was encircled by energy that resembled black mist. He sensed the hatred in the air once he was back in the real world. Then Hen was terrified and turned to face the way he had entered. An elderly man engaged in mortal fight with a man whose white hair, if it were possible, was even more spiky than legendary Sanin's. The elderly man had a gold staff that was damaged in several places, gold ninja sandals, and white and gold high priest robes. The dude was wearing white ninja sandals, white baggy pants, and a white armored shirt. There were other persons there as well, but two stood out to Naruto the most. They were dressed like priests, and Nerda recognized them as the two sons of the Sage of Six Paths. He approached them as the elderly, frail-looking madman stabbed the madman he was battling through the chest. The elderly guy appeared to have prevailed, but Nerda turned to discover that there had been a cost. There were large gashes scattered across the old man's bloody, torn robes. At that moment, the elderly man saw Nerda and remarked, "I have been expecting you, Tama Kahaku, or should I say, Nerdu Uzumaki." All eyes were on him at that point, and he began to smile. "Heh, you were expecting me?" With a sorrowful expression on his face, he added, "That is correct. Kalina told me of your presence before she left this world and told me you would be arriving soon." He also observed that his two boys were in the same state. Though they were her sons, she treated them like they were. Their real mother died long ago. Nerda pointed at his pretty huge blade and remarked, "I see, but why was I told to come here by a large piece of her?" The old sage placed his two fingers on Nerda's forehead, where his third eye would be. "It is because I have something I wish to give to you. You are Manat to save your time, and with that you will need the true Rinnegan," he said. Power surges into the boy's system. When it stopped, he saw that the sage's two sons were staring at him and grinning. He handed Nerda a scroll that explained how the Rinnegan operated, saying, "With this new power, you will gain the powers of others. Now, this power will let you control the bodies of fallen warriors and your mind controls them. You yourself may be able to use their power with enough training. Take the body of my fallen apprentice, his bloodline shall be beneficial to you in the future. All you have to do is look him in the eyes." Nerda nodded, picked up the scroll, and approached the lifeless body. He looked it in the eye, and it vanished. He was certain he would find out when he read the scroll, but he would have inquired where it went. And the Sage of Six Paths was talking once more. "Nerdu, you have a long journey ahead of you. You must gain 5 other bodies, but ones that should be connected to you and your home, and they can be from any time period. Once that is complete, find out your routes while searching for the temples of the elements from each major village of your time. There are 5 of them, but some of them might not be accessible in your time. That is what time travel is for." Then both of the sons appeared and gave Nerdu a grimace. They were represented by the elderly man. "Summoning scrolls that are lost to your time. Use them and find the others. They will be need for you and your friends from your time." When Nerdu nodded, he realized they were for the phoenixes and white tigers. "Thank you, but what am I supposed to do at these temples?" The elderly man paused in contemplation and was about to ask his sons a question when it appeared that he remembered. "Ah, yes! You will find pieces of a key that will unlock the Tower of Time in your time. You will know where it is once you have found the pieces of the key. The power you find will unlock the true power of the Blade of Time that passes." He produced a dagger tail and a blue glowing dagger that was attached to the dagger tail, saying, "Sorry, old age and injuries are getting to me. You will need this as well. Time's Serpent Dagger." The weapon then moved up Nerda's left arm and melted into it, creating a tattoo. The response from Nerda was, "Cool." The old sage gave Nerda a surprise smack on the back before turning to face his sons. "Indeed it is, Sage of Time." Nerda witnessed the creation of the Senju and Uchiha clans' creatures firsthand. He was beginning to appear transparent once the old was finished. He then vanished into a gold mist that traveled to Nerda, giving him a godlike appearance before Nerda, and his blade filled the old man's inner energy. "This is the end of me, but I have planted the seed of the future." The blade itself was somewhat altered. The blue energy was still present, but it now had a line of gold energy next to it. The infinity sign and other strange symbols were also present, but they were mixed energies. When Nerda turned to face the 2 brothers, he sighed and said, "I guess it's time for me to go." They simply nodded, and he completed the spirit painting before heading out. Unbeknownst to him, the 2 brothers would begin his legend, the Sage of Time, and he and his friends would be shocked when he came back. The Sea of Time. Nerda had no predetermined destination as he flew around the Sea of Time once more, considering whom bodies to use. He was thinking about his own and other people's pasts when an idea, well, a few ideas, came to him. There will undoubtedly be some surprise folks in the High Ninja Village, but they probably need it. By the time lightning struck, he was stranded after swiftly taking off. When the battle between Gaara and Lee and Kimuru, also known as the Bone Guy, came to a close, he approached the body that was stuck up in the bone forest, gazed into its eyes, and saw that it had vanished along with him. Gaara would have noticed him if he had stayed a few seconds longer, and when he turned around, the Kid Freak's lifeless body was gone. A pile of earth was thrown up to reveal Haku after another flash. He flashed out after taking her body. In a moment, he was in Kumo. Just when they were discussing one Hizashi Hyuga's body. He quickly removed the body from the startled ninja's grasp and fled before they could react. The last two individuals he traveled in time for were Nawaki Senju and Obito Uchiha's body, which required him to remove numerous rocks. That last one has been particularly difficult because he had to enter the death chamber covertly while a younger legendary Sannin and a frenzied fifth headmaster were conversing at the door. When they spotted him close to the child, they realized the child had vanished. Before they killed him, they demanded his name since that infuriated them. He left two future sages in his trail after saying Tama Kahaku and flashing away. Naruto would not be doing it the traditional manner, but he had to make one final stop and leave a note for his old friend Gaara. As he traveled to the day before Gaara went crazy, Naruto said, "Here I come, Gaara!" He was only a few steps from the main gates of the settlement of Sand and Flash. Unbeknownst to him, the Chunin guard witnessed the flare and stared in wonder. TCH, now to find him. He flung the bottle away and kept staring since he was drinking. Before hurriedly turning to face the desert, he asked himself, "What is the famed time sage doing here?" Even though the man had previously assisted them, he had no interest in getting involved in this. Naruto saw a younger Temari while strolling across the desert city. Given that she appeared to be 7 years old, Gaara was 5 years old at the time. He carried on walking, but it appeared that she saw him and approached him directly. "Hey! Who are you? I have never seen you around here before!" she exclaimed, placing her hands on her hips. Naruto smirked and said, "Oh, just a traveler passing through. I have never been here and I am kind of lost." When there was no discernible response to her being a Kage's daughter, she said, "Well, I am Temari of the desert. The Kazekage's daughter. If you wanted a tour around this place, you should have asked." "Don't you care that I am the daughter of a Kage?" she asked. She turned crimson with rage when Naruto laughed and added, "Nope. I see it or care." Then Naruto repeated, "What I do see is a beautiful young lady with a lot of potential." "Wah, how can you see that?" blushed young Temari. "Your eyes tell all. I can see that you have suffered a bit, but you are trying to prove to everyone that you are strong. That is what I see. Besides, I have met you before, and I can say that you will become one of the wind mistresses ever." She complained, "I wish my eyes would shut up." Her eyes widened when she heard the other sections. She was about to inquire as to how he knew it when she glanced at the clothing. Her eyes grew to the size of dinner plates as she recognized the black combat boots, black baggy pants with lots of pockets, a black muscle shirt, a black trench coat with the sleeves torn off, a black bandana covering his hair on his head, a pair of black sunglasses, and the huge blade on his back. The one and only man she admired. He screamed, You're Tama Kahaku!" as she glomped him. He could only laugh as he fell. The Temari he knew in his day was far less crazy than this one. He stood up and embraced her, saying, "Yep." Since they had already recognized him and had recovered from the shock of witnessing one of their old heroes who had fought alongside the third Kazekage against an old foe, the villagers simply laughed at the sight. They acknowledged that he appeared younger than he had previously been. He inquired, "So how do you know me?" Temari said, "How can I not know you? You are in the history books. I read a book with my dad a few years ago on how you helped the third Kazekage out in a battle and he helped you get into the Temple of Wind for your help. You're my only hero. As he processed it all, Naruto started to perspire. I suppose I've turned into a bit of a hero here. Hold on, she said, the third Kazekage? I've had to deal with that long ago. I wonder if getting to these places requires me to perform such things. Well, since I haven't been here in a long time, will you show me around here, Temari-chan? I'll be happy to, she exclaimed, leaping out of his embrace and beginning to tug on his arms. Naruto laughed as Temari dragged him roughly throughout the hamlet, saying, Come on. He learned a lot during that time, and the two simply talked about unrelated subjects until they arrived at the village playground, where she asked a question that had been bothering her. With puppy dog eyes, she said, Kahaku-san, could you tell me what I am like in the future? And Naruto gave in. All right, but first just call me Tama. I really don't like formalities. Now I know I shouldn't, but I guess I can tell you. I met you in my Chunin exams in Hyde Ninja Village. I must say, you are a badass Kunoichi. You were pretty much a wind mistress by then. Before she could ask what she looked like, she heard someone scream, and she grimaced since she knew what it was about, and was also concerned about her younger brother. Gaara! She exclaimed as she fled, Naruto trailing behind. They noticed a terrified Gaara staring at the sand that was pulling several children toward him. With a sigh, Naruto moved forward, but Temari stopped him and gave him a worried look. He simply grinned and replied, Don't worry, Temari-chan. Neither your little brother nor I will be harmed. She gave him another worried glance before releasing him. Naruto approached the commotion and merely touched the ropes that were dragging the children. Everyone's expressions were astonished as it froze and then plummeted into the nearby sand. The children simply shouted, Thanks, mister! And fled. As he approached Naruto, Gaara simply glanced at him and exclaimed, The voice, it is gone! Who are you? Naruto gave the young redhead a smile. He was different when he was younger, just like Temari. Tama Kahaku. Don't worry, Gaara, Shikaku will leave you alone a little while. When Gaara and Temari hear that, their eyes enlarge. Following that, the siblings grew somewhat closer to one another, and the three simply got to know one another better. They eventually found themselves perched atop a nearby structure. Tama, thanks for calming Shikaku, but why did you do it? Replied Gaara. Naruto smiled sorrowfully and added, Because, like Temari-chan, I have met you before, but under different circumstances. Temari questioned, What do you mean, Tama? I meet your team when I take my Chunin exams in Hyde Ninja Village. You, Gaara, and Kankuro. You are all different in that time. Kankuro is a bit of a perverted jerk, Temari. You are a bit of a cold but badass ninja who commands the wind, and you, Gaara, are a heartless killer. The two children gave him a wide-eyed, rather frightened gaze. Gaara, I have come in time to give you a message, because I am from that time and people think I am dead because I got my time powers. Now that I am here, I want to give you some advice. When you lose sight of yourself in the future, seek out the one called Naruto Uzumaki at the Chunin exams. Your answer to your existence will be with him. Before he inquired, Gaara's expression was bewildered. Okay, but who is he to you? Because, in a way, he is me. Naruto laughed once again. That knowledge caused the eyes of the two little children to expand. The collective response was, Cool. Now I want you to remember this as well, because this is the message I want you to remember. I am still alive, but don't tell Hyde Ninja Village I am. That is because I will be back, when the time is right. Naruto then turned to the children and they nodded. In order for them to see him, he then got up and removed his sunglasses. Temari caught herself staring at them and blushed slightly as she turned away because they were the deepest shade of blue they had ever seen. Naruto put his spectacles back on and grinned while ruffling their hair. They nodded as they performed the spirit art and flashed off, saying, The same eyes as mine, remember that. Okay, I gotta go now, remember me okay? Saya then, Nudanai-chan. Gaara muttered into the darkness. Temari was thinking about something else and didn't say anything. Sand Village with Gaara and Temari, regular time frame. Temari approached him after Gaara and Kankuro had just concluded their conversation about how Nuda had taught him how to be a true hero and other things. Temari had her arm around her younger brother's shoulder as the three of them gazed out into the sunset. The two siblings suddenly remembered something very significant after seeing a strange flash in the sunset. Gaara, what he said was true! Temari exclaimed abruptly, blushing slightly as she recalled that evening. Yeah, the two really were the same person, and he is not dead. I also have a strange feeling that he will be coming here soon. Temari said in a panic. Why? And Gaara merely gave her a blank stare. Oh, that's right, he doesn't know what you're to go to. That would be hard to figure out all by himself. That and the Temple of Wind is all but rubble in this time, Gaara replied. The two siblings then returned to the city to get ready. After that, Kankuro was extremely perplexed and exclaimed, Who the hell are you two talking about? Nudu Uzumaki aka Tama Kahaku, was the response he received as Temari flushed. The words, Holy shit, caused Kankuro's eyes to enlarge to the size of dinner plates. He recovered swiftly, blushing and sporting a sly smile. So what is with the blush, Temari? Shut up. In the sea of time, Nerdu. As the storm abruptly grew worse, he remarked. Well, that was a good time. Who knew they were so different as kids? What the? Before a lightning bolt from a distance slithered over to him, he had to split the waves a few times. Suddenly, he was gone. When Nerda was 5 years old. In Hyde Ninja Village, Nerda flashed in with an arbitrary ally. He walked out cautiously and observed the festival of the 9 beasts. He was obviously perplexed, but he simply couldn't understand his purpose for being here. He sighed and carried on strolling through the event, saying, Okay, the hell is going on? I was aiming for the time I left. He saw himself at that moment. He gasped when he saw his 5-year-old self. As he followed his younger self through the crowd, he remarked, This is the year that I got it real bad. Heh, maybe I can change it for the better. He observed that the looks directed at his younger self were more intense than usual. He didn't realize they had wandered into a stadium until much later. Oh yeah, I am changing this day somehow. Oh right, the talent show, he. Okay. It is now time for someone from the audience to come up and sing 3 songs. So who has the balls? Said a man in a black suit as he abruptly emerged from the curtains. Before anyone else could say, Oh, I'll do it. Nerdu grinned and shouted. They shouted, Then come on up, my black-clad friend, as Nerdu approached the stage. Upon arriving, the man remarked, Okay, dude, this is your time, so you make the rules. Nerdu simply grinned in response. When he shouted, WAZ up, party people! From the microphone, the audience erupted. The audience applauded, and Nerdu responded, Okay, this first song is called Burn It to the Ground. So I would like. He selected 2 audience members at random, who turned out to be a younger Anko and Kurenai. I am going to do things differently this year. I am going to select a few people to come up and do whatever while I sing. You ladies ready to rock? He asked, grinning as they emerged fearlessly. Anko purred, Hell yeah, cutie, as she slammed into him. Kurenai remarked, This should be interesting. Kurenai grinned at her best friend's antics, while Nerdu pumped his fist in the air and exclaimed, Well, let's get this party started then. Anko applauded. Due to his shadow clones in the back, the music started to play. Then, as the 2 girls started dancing, he tapped his foot a few times before beginning. Nickelback. Burn it to the ground. Oh no, it's midnight. We're too tightly wrapped. The bottle of whiskey bit me, so I had to take a fistful. Ooh. That stuff drives me completely insane. Without a doubt, we are completely fearless. Naruto's lightning-like abilities ignited above them as he sang, revealing timeline sceneries. Enko's battle with Orochimaru in the Forest of Death was the first. The problem was that none of the three on stage were aware of its presence, and the third Hokage was shocked to see it since he recognized the man. Hey, we're going out tonight. To extinguish all lights, hey. Take whatever we desire, hey. Look at everything, hello. We're going till the world ceases to revolve. At night, as we burn it to the ground. Every time he uttered the word, hey, the crown responded, causing a slight surge in lightning. We were yelling like demons. From the ceiling, swinging. A bunch of 50s is what I need. I was recently smacked by tequila. Ooh. We lack taste in class. Shit-faced and without a shirt. We lined them up. Fired back straight toward the crown after being shot down. Enko, constantly smashing down windows, then bringing a group of people back to Mother Island, took over the scene. Hey, we're going out tonight. To extinguish all lights, hey. Take whatever we desire, hey. Look at everything, hello. We're going till the world ceases to revolve. At night, as we burn it to the ground. The scene then shifted to the first time Enko and Kurenai bonded over a shared purpose. Like a ticking time bomb. Drinking until the end of the night. Please remove your hands from this glass. Last call, my ass. This train won't stop without a lock or chain. We are completely balls out and fearless. The scene then shifted to Kurenai and Asuma leaving. The Sarutobi blushed when he noticed this. He would put off dating her till later. Hey, we're going out tonight. To extinguish all lights, hey. Take whatever we desire, hey. Look at everything, hello. We're going till the world ceases to revolve. At night, as we burn it to the ground. The final scene with Enko, Kurenai, and a baby in Kurenai's arms with Asuma beside them then cut to that. Hey, we're going out tonight. To extinguish all lights, hey. Take whatever we desire, hey. Look at everything, hello. We're going till the world ceases to revolve. At night, as we burn it to the ground. People initially just looked at the song's conclusion before erupting into a boisterous shout. After leading the two young women off the stage, Naruto gave Enko a short kiss on the cheek before she and her best friend ran off. Upon recalling how insane she would be in the future, Naruto simply stroked it a little and trembled. Then he walked back up and pointed to some more folks, who turned out to be friends with Sakura, Ino, Iruka, and Naruto. He simply called out his next song while shaking his head at his good fortune. New divide link in Parliament. I recall the dark skies and the lightning that around me. As time started to fade, I recalled every flash. Like a shocking indication that I had finally been discovered by fate. And all I heard was your voice saying, I get what I deserve. As they appeared in the academy, the lightning show returned. Give me a reason to prove myself wrong so that I may erase this memory. Allow the floods to pass in front of you. Give me an excuse to close this gap and join the two. Allow it to fill up so that it might traverse this new division and reach the truth and falsehoods. It depicted Ino protecting Sakura from an aggressor. Nothing was revealed, and the memory was abandoned. The ashes fell like snow, and there was nowhere to hide. Then the ground gave way between our positions. And all I heard was your voice saying, "I get what I deserve." Itachi and Naruto's buddy are shown conversing in their house before the scene shifts to Naruto's friend watching his brother toss. Give me a reason to prove myself wrong so that I may erase this memory. Allow the floodwaters to transcend this new separation and the distance in your eyes. In every setback, in every deception, in each reality you reject, and you prayed to conceal the blunders that occurred with every apology and farewell. And all I heard was your voice saying, "I get what I deserve." The scene then shifted to Ino and Sakura fighting over Naruto buddy in the academy, with Iruka attempting to separate them for the first time. Give me a reason to prove myself wrong so that I may erase this memory. Allow the floods to pass in front of you. Give me an excuse to close this gap and join the two. Allow it to fill up so that it might traverse this new division and reach the truth and falsehoods. Through this new chasm. Through this new chasm. As some of the children were left off stage, the crowd erupted in a loud cheer once more as the music and the dancing children concluded. Naruto indicated his younger self and a younger sixth headmaster, telling Iruka and his friend to stay behind. He was wearing sunglasses, which was fortunate since otherwise he wouldn't be here right now. He glanced at him as if he were crazy. "All right, kid, ready for your song to be sung?" he asked himself. He simply laughed and started singing again. Monster Skillet. I never let you see my hidden side. I can't control it, so I keep it in a cage. Thus avoid me, I'm a nasty beast. I can't contain my anger when I feel it. The light then revealed Naruto and Naruto's friend as they grew older. However, Naruto's friend had a purple core energy background, while Naruto had a red one. It is scratching in the hallways, closet, and walls. When it awakens, I have no control over it. Hiding in my body, in my head, beneath the bed. Why won't someone come and put an end to this and save me? The scene shifts to the Forest of Death, where Naruto's companion is viciously assaulting the Sound Ninja. I sense it from deep within, just beneath the surface. I feel like a monster, I have to admit. I detest who I've become, and the horror has only just started. I feel like a monster, I have to admit. Legendary Sannin shoved Naruto off the cliff during their training session, forcing Naruto to demand the fox's core energy. I feel like an animal. I feel like an animal. I keep my hidden side behind lock and key. I can't control it, so I keep it in a cage. Because he will break me down and cry if I let him go. Why won't someone come and put an end to this and save me? Naruto was seen fixing the Shikaku. I sense it from deep within, just beneath the surface. I feel like a monster, I have to admit. I detest who I've become, and the horror has only just started. I feel like a monster, I have to admit. I sense it from deep within, just beneath the surface. I feel like a monster, I have to admit. I feel like an animal. I feel like an animal. It is hidden in the shadows and has extremely keen teeth. Iruka with Naruto's friend and Naruto in the academy, followed by Naruto with Iruka during the Mizuki incident, made the scene lighter. I can't get away from it. It demands my heart and soul. I can't be heard screaming. Perhaps this is a dream. Stop this creature. It might be inside of me. At that time, Team 7 and their endeavors were the scene. I sense it from deep within, just beneath the surface. I feel like a monster, I have to admit. I detest who I've become, and the horror has only just started. I feel like a monster, I have to admit. Naruto and his friend were shown in the Valley of the End in the last scene. I sense it from deep within, just beneath the surface. I feel like a monster, I have to admit. He did something crazy, and I have to relinquish control. I feel like a monster, I have to admit. I feel like an animal. 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 After everything was finished, everyone became silent as the third Hokage approached the stage and said, "Tama Kahaku, please come with me." He nodded before leaving. All of them were ogling young Naruto before they departed. They believed that they would suffer the wrath of time if they physically injured him. After entering the Hokage's office, they had a brief conversation during which the elderly guy told Naruto what he had observed. "So Tama, why are you here?" With a laugh, Naruto simply removed his sunglasses and bandana and remarked, "'Cause old man, I wanted to see my younger self not get hurt." The elderly man simply gazed at Naruto's whiskerless face and began, when Naruto interrupted him with an embrace. "It is good to see you again." "What do you mean?" Sighing, "Apart from those images you saw, I am about to reveal another thing." His expression turned serious. "You die at my Chunin exams by sealing Orochimaru's arms to the Shinigami. That is what legendary Sannin told me anyway." "I see." The ancient Hokage would have continued if an elderly guy with one arm hadn't interrupted him. Naruto got immediately vigilant as he heard the Hokage snarl out Danzo. "I heard that the famed Tama Kahaku was here, but you look like a younger version of the fourth Hokage to me." "You're close. I am Naruto Uzumaki." Before Naruto sprang up and smashed him against the wall, Danzo stated smugly, "The brat, but I am very confused as to why a whelp like you could become such an important figure in history. I guess it won't matter, you can work for me now." He recalled his mother's words from the letter and became enraged. "Shut up, you old fuck! I bet you heard about me from those annoying ass root ninja you command!" he exclaimed. You're the fucking reason I don't have a mom. You killed her!" "Heh, no proof, but I guess it is a good thing. No family ties to make a great ninja under my command," Danzo replied. Naruto said, "I said shut up. I should kill you myself," before grinning and giving the one-eyed man the creeps. He went to the door after saying, "No, I won't kill you. I'll let someone else do that." "Naruto, who are you going to get?" a worried Sarutobi inquired. The Hokage, Danzo, and even the hidden Anbu all went pale when the lad laughed and added, "Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, and I have all the time in the world to go a get her." The old man responded, "Danzo, you're screwed." Danzo's only response was hot air. "Oh, an old man," Naruto said at the door, drawing the Hokage's attention. "I tell you one more this. I learned this during my training. If you want to get done with the evil paperwork, use shadow clones. They retain the info they get and send it back to the creator." Naruto then shut the door and vanished. The workplace was silent for a moment before the Hokage burst out laughing. The hidden Anbu only shook his head as Danzo hurried out of the room. A few days after he went, Naruto time warped right in Inari's living room. "Hey guys, how is it going?" Kaiza spoke after the initial shock of Naruto arriving out of nowhere. Oh, not much, Nerdu. You have fun in the past or whenever you went. Nerdu grinned and said, You could say that. I gave a message to an old friend and then I put on rock concert. That is nice. Inari should be getting in soon, so why don't you help me set the table so we could all have dinner? Tsunami replied with a grin. After 10 minutes, Inari entered and grinned at his brother figure after Nerdu nodded and started to assist. That didn't take long, bro. I never said it would. Now we can talk about some more training. What do you mean, bro? We should finish this year off with more training, to be ready for anything we might eventually come across in our travels. After his mother left the dinner table for a moment, and returned with an ancient-looking scroll, Inari remarked, Fine with me, I want to be the best water master out there. Inari, if you are going to be traveling around the world like you said, please take this scroll. Mom, thanks, but what is it? Inari said as he accepted it. It is from your father, he wanted me to give it to you. It contains spirit art and the summoning contract for alligators and crocodiles. Inari hugged his mother and exclaimed, Thanks, MOM, while Nerdu grinned. As a result, Nerdu and Inari trained diligently for the following 8 months. Nerdu had produced some of his own spirit art, and they were quite powerful. However, one of them was a joint strike using their water powers, and even Inari was shocked by the amount of damage it caused. However, nobody wanted to be around Tsunami when she was furious since she had destroyed one of her flower gardens. In any case, it was fortunate that Nerdu had mastered certain water-bending techniques because else, the attack would not have been feasible. He discovered that they both had the same core energy elements, water, wind, and lightning, after purchasing core energy paper prior to his return. However, Inari's water element was stronger than Nerdu's wind element. Following that, he occasionally sneaked into other towns to obtain spirit art for their components. While creating some of his own spirit art, Nerdu discovered that sealing was incredibly fascinating. He even went so far as to enhance and add components to his Rasengan. Recalling the scroll the elderly sage had given him, he opened it and began working on the Rinnegan. It brings out the full power of the bloodline if you have it in the bodies you own, he discovered. That was beneficial because it eliminated the Byakugan's blind area and the trapped bird seal, elevating Obito's Sharingan to an immortal level without any unfavorable side effects. Additionally, he learned about Sage Mode from the Toads. He hasn't been able to get into it since his first attempt, which was far too powerful. But he does have some ideas. Inari had essentially turned into a water boy, and in a nice way. In order to transform the water into ice, vapor, steam, and mist, he bent it in certain ways. He even received a summons to come. In order to further his water-bending technique, he even purchased a bow staff. The time had finally arrived for them to embark on their adventure. As they made their way to the bridge, where the entire community was waiting to greet them, Tsunami fussed over the two of them. Tazuna was the village spokesperson. The old bridge builder grinned as he handed the two a sizable sum of money and said, I know you two would have to leave someday, and so we all began making preparations for this day, though I thought it would have been much, much later. What can you do here? It is money for the trip. After giving it a startled glance, Nerdu remarked, Are you sure? It's a lot of money. Tazuna answered, Don't worry about it, you're going to need it. Unsure of what else to say, the blonde responded, Okay, thank you. Nerdu wished him success and hugged Tsunami, Kaiza, and Tazuna. Don't worry, Mom, I'd be okay. I am going out in the world to make you proud, Inari remarked, crying a little but doing just as well. As the two boys crossed the bridge beginning their voyage, Tsunami simply grinned and gave him a tighter hug, adding, You already have. They're going to be great warriors one day, Tsunami remarked after they had left the village. After giving her a quick glance, Kaiser remarked, They already have. Asking, "What do you mean?" Tazuna said. Kaiser continued by describing how the guys had previously been spotted in IWA and had aided Kumo, Kiri, and Suna. "I checked out a recent history book in the library and saw them in it." At their astonished expressions, he grinned. "They are in for a hell of a ride." With Inari and Nuda. Inari said, "So, where to first, bro?" With a playful grin, Nuda said, "The borders of Hyde Ninja Village. Time to leave with them a little message and then to the capital city in Fire Country. We have to pay the Fire Lord a little visit." Inari's grin only got bigger as they made their way to Hyde Ninja Village. People were visiting those they believed to be deceased, and the message was positive overall. 3 days later, Hyde the Ninja Village. In the years since Nuda had vanished, not much had changed. Because he had removed the cursed seal with the help of legendary Sannin, Nuda's friend did. At that point, he somehow recalled all the spirit art he had studied, but he was unable to recall anything from Beyond or the Forest of Death. Additionally, he discovered that he had acquired the Mangekyo Sharingan's strength, but at a cost. He hardly ever utilized it because once he activated it, his body would change to that of his level 2 cursed seal. His mentality had also somewhat changed because, after learning that he was responsible for Nuda's disappearance, he devoted all of his time to his training in the hopes of eventually being able to locate his friend and return him to the village. He and the other members of the Rookie 11 believed they were still alive. A part of her believed he was actually alive, so the 5th headmaster didn't have the courage to tell them they were mistaken. Together with Ino and Hinata, Sakura had advanced to the position of apprentice to the 5th headmaster and was making good progress in the medical profession. In order to assist in finding their friend, the others simply threw themselves into training like the Uchiha did. However, everyone was currently just hanging out and taking a break from training. Sakura, Nuda's companion, and Team 10 were relaxing in a random train field with the Hyde Ninja Village Emerald Corps. Hinata, Niji, and her group dining at the Hyuga estate. At their training ground, Lee and Tenten were engaged in combat. Legendary Sannin was bothering 5th headmaster and Shizen in the Hokage Tower, while the 6th headmaster was at the memorial with the other Jonin sensei, and they were attempting to pull him away from there. Under the cover of Inari's Gen Spirit artwork, Nuda and Inari made an appearance on the Hokage monument. Since they all had white hair, Inari was doing a Gen Spirit art to them to make them appear like their former selves while Nuda had his pathways out. "I wonder what they will do when they see them." "Who knows, bro? I am more worried about how they will take the message. Will they understand it?" "I am sure they will, they are all smart after all." "Okay, bro, your paths are ready." "Good," Nuda remarked, nodding to his own self as they vanished to convey their words. "Inari, get ready to leave soon. I am sure someone will notice the Gen Spirit art." Yeah, you'll just Azure Flash us outta here, I got it." In the Tower of Hokage, the 5th headmaster would not stop talking despite her best efforts to ignore her former partner. She glanced up at him and followed his pale eyes as he finally became quiet. The sight of little Nawaki staring at them in front of them also made her pale. Along with the others and the Nerdapal, Sakura was chatting with Ino about unrelated topics, while the Hyde Ninja Village Emerald Corps and Nuda's pal were relaxing with the 2 slothful scumbags. Were engaged in a ninja game when they all sensed someone nearby. When they saw the image of Haku, the 2 members of Team 7 gasped, recalling the day they first saw him, mask and all. With the others, including Hinata. While her sister and 2 teammates listened, Hinata was discussing her training with 5th headmaster with Niji. Hayashi, who had just entered, was also paying attention and was quite pleased with her. Then, in the courtyard where they were, a man showed up. Hayashi and Niji were prepared to strike, but as soon as they received a clearer view of the invader, they both collapsed to the ground, leaving Hinata and her group speechless and Hanabi perplexed. The Hizashi himself was standing there, in front of them, with Tenten and Lee. They sensed a presence behind them while they were engaged in a furious Thai spirit art match. The white-haired guy was initially identified by Lee as Kimimaro, the man he and Gaara believed to be dead, hanging in a forest fashion from his bones. Together with Enko, the other Jonin-sensei, and the sixth headmaster. Kurenai was attempting to stop Enko from killing the Green Man, while Asuma simply shook his head as Guy continued his customary tirade about the power of youth. The sixth headmaster was now 4 hours late to everything, and they wanted him to get back to normal because he appeared so broken most of the time. They came to attempt to cheer him up. The sixth headmaster's one visible eye widened in surprise as he spun around to warn them to leave him alone. The others who were going to wave him off looked in the same direction as him, and went pale because Obito Uchiha, the sixth headmaster's former partner and buddy, was standing a few feet away. Naruto grinned as he stood there and observed the emotions of everyone in his route. Since no one would identify him, he decided not to utilize his metal path. Then, simultaneously, he conveyed the identical message through each of his paths. Though we may be dead, we live on through another you all hold dear. When the Tower of Time rises, be ready for the return of the Sage of Time and an old friend you all have lost and think is dead. For when he returns, the 5 elements will unite to fight a great evil that will be unleashed. Be ready, my old friends. With that, Naruto skillfully brought his routes back to his consciousness. Kimimara's body dissolved into the wind, turning white as bone. Before the wind carried Obito and his body out of sight, the area was engulfed in flames. Before being melted into water by the sun's powerful beams, Haku's body turned to ice. The bodies of Hizashi and Nawaki transformed into white leaves and sawdust, which both floated out the window. Legendary Sannin and Tsunade both went to the window to see the sawdust fly in the direction of the Hokage monument. When a Gen Spirit artwork was revealed, they saw a location they hadn't seen in a long time, the Time Sage himself, flashing away in a brown cloak. Fifth Headmaster exclaimed, "What the hell?" as everyone else was thinking the same thing. After 4 days, at the capital city, at the Fire Lord's palace, Naruto and Inari had just arrived, and it appeared like everyone recognized them because so many people were bowing to them. "Hey bro." "Yeah, Inari? Are people bowing to us because of what we are going to be doing in the past?" "Most likely." As they got closer to the Fire Lord's palace's main gates, Inari said, "Ah." After raising an eyebrow at them, the guard led them through, his eyes widening when he recognized them. They proceeded through the exquisite hallways until they reached a set of enormous white doors. The guard vanished beyond the enormous doors after saying, "Please wait here while I announce your presence, young sages." The bug-eyed Inari asked. "He said sages with AS, right?" Naruto grinned slightly and added, "That is what I heard anyway." The big door opened as soon as he finished speaking, revealing a room fit for a Greek king. A few people were seated on 3 marble thrones, which were surrounded by golden pillars on the edges of the room with white sculptures along the red carpet. White marble also covered the floor. The largest of the thrones was in the center, and it had a clown with white hair, a mother with a big white beard, and regal-looking crimson clothing. His wife was clearly to his right. She appeared to be about her husband's age, had graying red hair, and wore regal red clothing as well. A young red-haired girl, perhaps 13 years old, wearing a stunning crimson dress with blazing patterns, was now standing to the man's left. She was examining the 2 lads critically, most likely believing that one of them might make a suitable husband in the future. The old Fire Lord was the one with the straight face. The man told the 2 lads, "I have been waiting for you, Sage of Time. Reptile Sage." Now Inari knew why he had previously been referred to as a sage. The elderly guy then forced a grin and remarked, "Young Naruto Uzumaki, it's been far too long." It hit Naruto like a locomotive in snow country when he was shocked that the old Fire Lord knew him. When he was 6 years old, the third Hokage brought him here to pay a visit since, for some reason, the Fire Lord had called the elderly man. The Fire Lord was taken aback but not angry when Naruto joined him. Even he recognized Naruto as the monster, and not himself. He removed his black bandana and sunglasses and remarked, "You scared me for a minute there, Tashi-sama." The Fire Lord's daughter jumped out of her seat and rushed to glomp Naruto as soon as she noticed this. "And Naruto and I-chan?" Inari was perplexed, but the Fire Lord and his spouse simply laughed at this. As his oldest and first friend glomped him, Naruto laughed. "Nice to see you too, Kira-chan. You miss me?" he said as he stood up and assisted her. "Are you kidding?" "Of course I do, you never write. How am I supposed to know if my best friend is still alive or not? Oh, and what is this I hear that you are the most famous person in history, you blockhead?" She responded with disbelief, and then rebuked. As he perspired at the irascible redhead, Naruto remarked, "I am not aware of my fame at the moment." Did I miss something?" Inari's voice interrupted. Old man Hokage took me here when I was 6. I quickly became friends with everyone here." Inari smirked and said, "Oh, so you got connections with people in high places. You could say that, young reptile sage. Now Naruto, why are you here and not in Hyde Ninja Village?" replied the elderly Fire Lord. As the elderly man arched an eyebrow, Naruto remarked, "You of all people should know that. After all, you called me the Sage of Time. Though my accomplishments have been stated in those history books everyone has been talking about, I have not done those things yet, for our journey has only begun." When the elderly man remarked, "I see, you are from this time after all. But you have not answered my other question yet, and why you are here." A look of understanding crossed his face. Then he said, "Hyde Ninja Village might think that I am dead, but not for long. You see, last year I was in a battle against an Orochimaru-possessed Naruto friend Uchiha. We got separated and found out about my true call, which you all know of. I will return to Hyde Ninja Village in 1 year to unite the 5 elemental countries to fight the being known as the Dark Entity that has been sealed in the timeline for thousands of years." Naruto took a moment to digest the news. He took a golden horseshoe out of a seal in his cloak and remarked, "Now, why I am here is part of my journey. I need to get into the Greek Memorial and the Temple of Fire." The Fire Lord tossed Naruto a tiny flame-like key that led to the Temple of Fire and said, "Ah, the golden omega symbol of ancient Greece, right. I grant you permission to enter them, just go to the Greek Memorial first. Trust me, you will need the power you receive from there on your travels. Oh, and Naruto." "Yatashi-sama?" In a mysterious tone, he remarked, "Do this old man a favor and be careful. I know more about you than you know." As the two lads departed to visit the Greek memorial on the opposite side of the city, Naruto grinned and said, "Right, old man." After glancing at her spouse, Kuina, Tashi's wife, remarked, "He has not changed much." "Yes, and that is what scares me. Even though I know a lot about him from the history books and see him and a second son ever since he came on his first visit, I still worry he might mess something up and fail in his quest." "Dad, you worry too much. Besides, he will be the strongest person in history. Maybe I could be with him in the end," she replied with a wicked grin. "You of all people should know that is impossible." The elderly guy grinned pitifully and remarked, "You have read everything there is to know about the Sage of Time." "Yeah, I know. That woman from Kiri is lucky," the girl whined, letting out a sigh. "Well, there is always the reptile sage," Kuina said with a smile. The girl considered it while glancing at her mother. She turned to face the door and remarked, "Perhaps, if he already does have a girl by the time he returns." Now Naruto and Inari were breathing heavily on the opposite side of the city. Why? They wanted to race there, but they got lost a few times because they didn't know the exact location. Inari panted. I win, Naruto. Naruto remarked. You just got lucky. Inari grinned and said, Yeah, don't be a sore loser. As they entered the structure, which resembled an old Greek temple, Naruto said, Yeah. Before they saw a statue of an elderly guy wearing a toga, Inari asked, So where are we supposed to put that horseshoe thing? It was Zeus, according to a nearby sign. They noticed a grove in the elderly man's breast that resembled the horseshoe as their gaze moved up the statue. Place the Omega symbol in the heart of the King of Olympus, and the path to their resting place shall be lit up. According to Naruto. When he looked up, he said, That answers your question. Inari sarcastically remarked. Yes, thank you, Mr. Points out the obvious. So, do you want to jump up there, or would you like for me to raise you up to it with my ice pillar? Let's go with your ice pillar. I don't feel like jumping. The water master took the water out of the air, shaped it into a swirling pillar, and then froze it. Right, he said. Naruto then ascended the pole and hammered the Omega symbol into place. The statue's arms started to move in the direction of the ice. When Inari noticed this, he hurried to block the path before massive lightning bolts broke through the ice and the earth where Inari had been standing. This led to the opening of a descending staircase. When Naruto landed next to Inari, the young child couldn't resist making fun of the blonde. The blonde's hair was standing on end and ice was clinging to his clothing. As he replaced his black bandana, Naruto remarked bitterly, Well, I guess we know what lit up means now. Inari laughed as they went down the stairs. Yeah? They didn't know the sign's wording had changed. To gain the power of the destroyer of the gods, they must now contend with the big three. When the two reached the foot of the steps, they were greeted by a large, unadorned chamber with torches on either side. A placard in the center of the room caught their attention as well. Before it vanished and the room began to tremble, Naruto read, First challenge, Army of Hades. Why do I have a bad feeling about this? As he prepared to fight, Inari muttered, Well, no said this would be a cakewalk. Wait a sec, isn't this Hades guy the god of the underworld? Naruto sarcastically retorted, Oh great, we are getting challenged by the old Shinigami. As soon as those words were spoken, hands flew out and the ground cracked. Those hands were attached to Roman soldiers and sailors who appeared to be undead. Ah, shit, zombies. Inari laughed nervously and added, Well, we might as well kill them again so that they stay down. Before shouting, Steam Claw's Spirit Art! Inari's hands were coated with core energy before the natural water in the air surrounding them and boiled so hot that it converted to steam. He then started to flash through a few hand signs. After grinning, Naruto called forth his metal realm. He sent him on an assault. Alongside Inari, who was tearing up every zombie that attacked, the road suddenly carried metal, which impaled and diced apart their adversaries. At least 50 zombies remained after a while, so Inari sprang back to Naruto as his metal realm vanished. With these things just coming back for more, an irritated Inari remarked, Got a spirit art that will get rid of these freaks fast? As the Inari moved, Naruto said, 1. Stay behind me. Before pointing his right palm at the army of undead, Naruto made a few of his own hand gestures. Wind Vortex Spirit Art! As his palm sucked in all the zombies, a little pocket of condensed air formed a few centimeters away. However, a few undead with axes and hammers showed up before they could celebrate their victory. With a sly smile, Naruto exclaimed, Wind Vortex Cannon Spirit Art! The result was not what he had anticipated. All that emerged was a dark mist and a high-pressure wind that brought down the Minotaurs. As he and Inari both started to perspire, he said, Note to self, never use on zombies. Naruto shouted, Forget this, Inari, just bend. As he ran in, began basting a few Minotaurs, and turned part of the wind into blades, slicing them to bits. Until he noticed a gap, Inari used the water to deflect their axe strokes. He used it to sharpen the water into spears, but it didn't appear to kill his half, so he froze them by encasing them in water. He smirked as he shattered the icy minotaurs into pieces and produced some water blades. Inari remarked, "Well, that was different." "Yeah, but why do I get the feeling that it is not over?" replied Naruto. Two enormous cyclopes emerged out the holes in the ground at that precise moment. Inari said, "Ah, come on, Naruto, you just had to jinx it." After that, he performed some hand signals for one of his lightning spirit artworks, called Zapper Spirit Art. Using the ice he had created on the ground, he started to circle the two cyclopes quickly while hurling lightning bolts at the two freaks. They snarled out and punched the ground, which made Inari unsteady, as if it just annoyed them. When he stood up again, Naruto charged in with the blade of time and his time's serpent dagger ready, and he murmured, "Dang, I hope that would work." Naruto swung across to one of the cyclopes and attempted a downward slice after he sent the dagger to the ceiling, where it became lodged. Both of its hands halted it, and Naruto hissed at it until he had an idea. Naruto made his dagger snake its way into the creature's eye by sending core energy through its tail. It was busy roaring about its eye as Naruto grinned and lowered the blade again, slicing it right down the center. The second one became enraged and punched Naruto into the wall adjacent to Inari after that one was killed. "Ugh, this not working." As he assisted Naruto leaving the wall, Inari said, "Well, we could try that joint spirit art on it." As they made the hand signals at the same time, Naruto stated, "Alright, that should have enough power to kill this thing." They then extended their hands as if they were hurling energy. Naruto then positioned himself behind Inari in the same way that Goku and Gohan had killed Cell. A few inches ahead of them, a sphere-shaped vortex of water formed. "Uzumaki Cannon!" was screamed by the two boys with a sly smile, and the sphere exploded with water at great speed, shredding the foolish monster. After it was gone, a door formed at the opposite end of the room and the holes in the ground shut up. Additionally, there was a slight glimmer in the room, and the two boys sensed energy once more. "Okay, at least we won't have to keep on fighting like we are drained of all energy," Inari said. As they left that room and entered a totally another one, Naruto nodded. They appeared to be in the midst of an ocean on a massive Greek ship. "Okay." An eerie roar interrupted Inari as he opened his mouth to speak. A placard that said, "Defeat the evil Hydra," caught their attention. Then a head of the Hydra erupted out from the deck and began to attack them, shattering the sign. When it lunged for them, the two youngsters parted ways. As it began to rain, the two boys nodded and formed a blade of their element. They slashed off the skull of the beast as they ran toward each other. "That was too easy." As snake-like heads burst out of the ship, encircling them, Inari said, "Naruto. A Hydra usually has a lot of heads, where the main head controls the others." The two youngsters turned pale when another head, much larger than the others, roared out of the water. The words that escaped their lips were, "Oh shit." The Hydra's four lesser heads attacked them before they could continue to stare. To protect them, Inari had to make a water sphere. Inari winced every time a head struck the sphere, saying, "We need to think of a plan and fast. These Hydra heads are strong." Naruto glanced around him through the sphere and nodded. This ship was obviously a fishing vessel because of the enormous hooks above them. While they removed the main head, which they had to scale the mast to reach, those hooks could be used to temporarily incapacitate the heads. Yes, this might work. What might go wrong? As he explained the plan to Inari, Naruto nodded, and Inari agreed that it was a fine plan. They went to attack the creatures after Inari released the water sphere. After they slew the first two, Naruto used his dagger tail to pull one of the bladed hooks onto the Hydra, and Inari used his water-bending talent to do the same. As the boys hooked the other two heads, that linked them to the ship. Before the first two heads broke away, they believed they had done well. Ak. Naruto, take care of the main head while I deal with these jerks. Are you sure? As they avoided a blow from the heads, Inari cried. Yes. If you don't kill the main head, this cycle of trapping the heads will continue. Now go. Naruto nodded as he ascended the mast using core energy to reach the platform where he could engage in combat with the main head. In the meantime, Inari had frozen the ship's water using his water-bending abilities to gain an advantage in speed. His next spirit art, raining ice needles, was then yelled out, and the rain that was approaching the conflict quickly froze and flew in all directions, striking the foreheads. They simply thrashed around because of those. With a sly smile, Inari summoned his Zapper spirit art, and, moving swiftly to avoid being struck, hurled tiny lightning bolts that struck the ice's ends, electrifying them and the Hydra heads in the process. He had anticipated that they would burst into a flurry of blood. 8 heads emerged to glare at him instead of just 4, so he didn't have time to feel repulsed. He swallowed and made use of his speed to avoid suffering too much damage. They slammed him a couple of times, of course, but he did his best to avoid being murdered. Before long, he found himself surrounded by the animals, and he let out a sigh. Calm waters meant that his unique Thai spirit art was about to be used. Despite the raging storm, the ocean immediately started to settle down. He assumed his fighting position after removing his bow staff from his back. When the monsters realized this, they became extremely perplexed until Inari struck. He continued to use his advantage in speed, racing toward one of the heads while attacking the others with 2 water clones. Every time he struck them in the neck, their necks jerked back, demonstrating his accuracy and the ferocity behind his blows. Soon after, he and his 2 clones found themselves in the center once more. To his horror, 16 heads emerged as he watched the heads break apart. Shit, NRDO! Hurry the hell up! He shouted out in fear. Inari began fighting with Naruto at the same moment. When Naruto reached the summit, he was astounded by the size of the head by itself. He deadpanned. This will not be easy. He ducked out of the way just in time to avoid the monster's roar and attempt to devour him. Since it appeared to follow him everywhere, Naruto chose to eliminate that characteristic and used his lightning bending to shoot out its eyes. It yelled in agony as it flailed around, shattering the mast top and turning it sharp and pointy. Naruto got a brilliant idea from that. He leaped on top of it, pulled out his blade, and tried to slice it several times, but he was thrown back by its roar alone. Fortunately, he caught the edge just in time as he nearly fell off the platform. Naruto snarled as he stood up again and thought of something else. He produced his dagger tail, swung it around the beast's muzzle, and pulled it forward until it was just over the jagged end of the splintered mast. When he pulled down, it impaled itself in his eyes, or what was remained of them, and he grinned. He heard Inari's shout as it tried to escape, turned to face it, and was shocked by what he saw. The creatures' heads all looked up at the sound of his voice, and Inari, bewildered, swerved to the side of the boat. Get to the side of the boat then! He cried back. Then, while leaping far above the beast's primary head, Naruto began a few hands. Pressure force spirit art! He said, bringing both hands down, and a tremendous gust of high-pressure wind shot downward. As it descended, it blew up the main head and continued downward, blasting the area where Inari had once stood as well as the heads of the lesser animals and the center of the boat. A bright light appeared as the boat began to sink, and Naruto and Inari found themselves in a white room. An elderly man who appeared to be in his 80s stood in front of them. He was very muscular. As the 2 lads prepared to battle, the man declared, I am Zeus, ruler of the gods, but I am also just an echo of the past. Unfortunately, I do not have a challenge for you. I never thought anyone would get past the evil Hydra in the way you did. I grant you to the power of my son, Kratos, destroyer of the gods. The man then vanished. There were 2 wisps of energy, and some ominous-looking blades in his place, and they spread to the 2 lads. The Naruto was astonished and said, Wow, that was unexpected. As he tried to understand his new abilities, Inari remarked, "Yeah, you take the blades. I don't use blades." The blades of Athena were the first item Naruto picked up after nodding and saying, "It is a good thing I created some storage seals in my coat." On each side of the coat, he inserted the golden, serrated blades into a seal. The blade that followed appeared to have had parts of its interior sectioned out and replaced with lightning. In order to extract the blade of Olympus with his left hand, he tucked it inside the right side of his coat. On the other side was the blade of time. Then came what appeared to be a 10-foot silver blade with Greek letters running along its edge. The symbols of the Titans were arranged from top to bottom in the center of the blade. He inserted the blade of the Titans into the collar's rear seal. He would need to use both hands to take this out because it was hefty. At last, he caught sight of 2 golden tridents. With a sigh, he threw the smaller one to Inari, who simply shrugged it off. It was similar to a bow staff, so he could use it. The trident of Triton was one of them. The trident of Poseidon was the one that Naruto randomly sealed in his coat. Additionally, Naruto discovered a piece of golden armor that extended from his shoulder to his wrist. On his right hand he placed that. This and its characteristics came to be known as the Golden Fleece. There were also a few other weapons, such as the barbarian's hammer and the Spear of Destiny, which he sealed in a scroll and gave to Inari. These weapons weren't blades, and Inari was proficient with them. They were then transported back to the entryway, where it appeared as though nothing had happened. "Inari, let's just go to the Temple of Fire tomorrow." As they made their way to an inn for the night, Inari remarked, "Fine with me, that was kind of tiring."